Howdy folks, just wanted to show you my in-house aquaponics system. I've had a few people, as a result of a blog post I made, want to see exactly what it was I was doing, so I've got a couple things pulled out here just so you can take a better look. I'll walk you through really quickly how the whole system works and what it is I put together. So down the bottom here is a 78-liter rough tote, and the whole system as a whole is what's called a chop system, or constant height one pump, which means the fish bin in the middle at 38 liters, the water level basically doesn't change. All the water height changes are done down in the bin in the bottom. So what happens is, as you can see, I've got a crop of pepper plants here which are growing really well. Those are going to be transplanted out into our regular dirt garden once the weather comes up. I've got an overhead light providing lots of sunlight. Around in the back here, you can see I've got water pouring in, and the water fills the bin, and there's another one of those out. So lots of water coming out, and then that fills the grow bed up. And you can see in here I've got it's just a bottle which has been cut, and down the bottom you can see the water and a standpipe. And so what I've got here is a standard bell siphon. I found that the clear plastic bottles are fantastic because you can actually see the water moving. So the bell siphons drain out through here and here, and they pour into the fish tank. So you can see this one here is running, and lots of air churning, as you can see, because that water's dropping about 6 inches actually under pressure and into the fish tank. You can't see the fish right now, they all seem to be hiding, of course. This is just a little feeding ring I've got set up, I made up with a little yogurt cup so that I put the food in there so it doesn't get swept away. Over on this side I have got this piece of pipe is a solids lift overflow, and in the back is a surface skimmer. You can see a little bit better there. So I've got a solid lift overflow in the front and a skimmer in the back. So as the water comes pouring in, it vacuums the tank and skims off the surface at the same time. And then these run down and into the tank down here, and you can see that water's just pouring in. And lots of oxygenation happening because of stirring the surface up and dropping the water again. This hose here is a flow regulator. Essentially, if you look down the middle here, I've got water coming up from the pump in the sump, which is back in the corner. It comes up the back. There's a hose there, so that is the pump hose, which comes up the back into a T-split. And I've got a gate valve here, and what I'm doing is that I can regulate the speed of water coming in and out by turning that valve, and the extra water just runs straight back down and goes into churning the surface of the sump tank. I actually do have a fish or two living in the sump tank. There's a Plecostomus and another bottom feeder in there, so you can see. Every once in a while I've got some flue valve media in there just in case. A little bit more biological surface area. It turns out to have been completely unnecessary. The stuff in the rig here is just pea gravel, 1/4 inch, 1/8 inch, basically river washed pea gravel, and so that's done plenty. The bottom, I would say, from here down is charcoal. That's caused an amusing problem with pH, whereas I can't get the pH for the system below about 7.5 no matter what I do, including adding sulfuric acid. It doesn't change anything, which is causing some other issues, but nothing horrid. I'm not seeing any symptoms about inabilities for the plants to take up the nutrients. You can see the leaves are nice and big and green. Excellent example of pepper plants. I've got a fan here keeping a steady current of air moving across the plants, just so that's okay. And we're on well water here, so I'm actually using my aquarium, which has got some goldfish in it as well, as my first stage for water filtration. So what I do is that when I first take out some well water, it goes in here, and then when I need to fill the sump up, I use a siphon hose to take water from and into the, and so I top off the system with that, and that way the aquarium is also always getting good fresh water changes, good for the fish, and the nutrients and everything else wind up in the aquaponics system. So a couple of other things. If you look in there, I'm going to put a little more light on this. Can't really see, but there's an air stone. There it is. I've got an air stone bubbling away in there, and that's just to make sure there's plenty of dissolved oxygen. The air stone is actually running off of a pump connected to that old power pack. That power pack gives about 5 to 6 hours constant operation for the air stone and air pump for the aquaponics, as well as for the aquarium. So if the power goes out in a winter storm or something, fish in both spaces have still got lots of dissolved oxygen in their environment. So that's the system as it exists. It's about $200 to build. I had to reinforce the shelving unit here with these planks. The problem with the shelving unit was that while it would hold the weight of the bins, turns out the fine print is you have to use every square inch of the shelf to hold that load. I'm not. I've actually got the weight really concentrated in about 2 bands, about that wide and that wide because of the way water flows, and so it was actually crunching the shelf. So by putting those hunks of old 2x6 that I had, it actually distributes the weight evenly and fixes the problem. This is just electrical conduit that I'm using for my elbows. Again, through fixtures for electrical conduit. Over time, the wiggling and the motion of the system actually started leaking because this is just rough totes, so it's just a liberal application of silicone around it to tighten the whole thing up. Regular PVC pipe, just shot full of holes, so there's lots of water flow. There's an elbow inside, and as I said, I'm just using for my the pressure chamber, if you want to use that term, for my bell siphon, just a little pop bottle. And the benefit to this is the shape of the bell siphon at the top. As the water comes up, pressurizes the whole system, and so it forces the water. The other one's about to start. Let's go look. Yep, it is. A little light down there, and so you can actually see the water running down the siphon there. And so essentially, as the water comes up, it more and more water are trying to occupy a smaller and smaller space. It floods the mouth of the siphon pipe, the stand pipe, and starts the siphon process. It runs pretty much flawlessly. It just doesn't stop. I can adjust the how often it runs just by changing the amount of water, basically using my throttle there. So right now they go off about every 3 to 5 minutes. There goes the other one. Because of the way I'm doing this, my standpipe is about that high, and so I've got about 1 inch between the top of the wet area and the top of the gravel. That seems to be working. Because I'm using a fairly aggressive flood and drain schedule, about every 3 to 5 minutes. Don't seem to be having any problems with root rot or anything like that. Yeah, I mean, as you can see, we've already actually cut these peppers back once. They were up over the light, almost 4 inches. I cut them down to almost 6 inches below the line of the light. In fact, you can see one of the stems where it was cut here. That's all new growth within 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, yeah, 2 or 3 weeks. And so yet again, I'm going to have to trim the whole thing back because it was snowing outside less than 4 days ago, so it's not quite ready to plant peppers outside. So these peppers are just fantastic. I'm looking forward to getting them out into the dirt bucket on the backyard patio and growing lots of actual peppers. Normally, of course, the bin down there, I've just got to pull it out so you can see what's going on. Normally it'd be tucked back in, and that piece of wood would be out of the way. Over here, I've just got my little workbench, assorted things that I use. Just using regular, the regular fluval, goldfish food. Tilapia will be for the commercial test project outside. I'm using an old milk pitcher as a water scoop. I've got test strips, some seaweed extract for making sure there's plenty of trace minerals in the system. I just put a teaspoon of that in every week. A little bottle of sulfuric acid for figuring out the pH. Regular chemical test kit for doing check. My spare parts and whatever, and some extra hose. Right? You wind up accumulating all that kinds of stuff. All the stakes for my peppers are just pieces of insulating rod for electric fence, cut down into fiberglass rod, cut in about 18-inch long pieces, and just driven straight down to the bottom of the bucket, so there's plenty of hold. The lights are hung off the ceiling, and I've got a timer over here that runs a power bar, and the power bar runs the fan, the overhead light, and there's a little LED underneath there that I picked up on sale for $4 or $5, just to get a little bit of light so I like to be able to look at the fish. So yeah, all in all, it's working really, really well. It's doing a good job of keeping a little bit extra moisture in the basement. Between the sump, the fish tank, and the 2 grow beds, I calculated I've got about 120 liters of water in the system. And about once a week, I've got to put about 10 to 15 liters of water in. So over the course of a week, I evaporate out 1 to 2%. That seems to be my running average. Every once in a while, I'm a little bit closer to 2.5% because the family cat has decided that he likes the taste of fish soup. So every once in a while, he goes in and sticks his head in the sump and has a big glug. But yeah, that's okay. So all in all, like I said, the whole system cost about $200 to build. Took about an afternoon between me and a friend. A couple things I probably would do differently. You'll notice there's a lot of this brown. That's water scale. We have a lot of iron in the water here, and just the amount of splash that occurs when the 2 standpipes drop water. I think what I would do is replace the middle rough tote with a clear-sided rough tote the same height as the sump, but keep the water level the same, so that the water was splashing the sides of the tote, but I'd still be able to see the fish. I went with the smaller rough tote there because I wanted to be able to watch the fish. So, and I guess that's about it. That's a quick walk through the system. It's a test case to prove that I can make aquaponics work. The answer here clearly is a roaring success. Yes, I've got 10 or 15 fish between the two systems. I've got peppers growing. It's great. If you got any questions, just leave them in the comment section down below. I'll be happy to answer them. Take care. Bye-bye.